My first duty station was as a fire direction officer in South Korea. I spent 13 months over there and learned a tremendous amount about interacting with different cultures, and the mission over there was real. During the Cold War, particularly in 1987, it was a very realistic mission. And so I really got a good understanding of the military and how important my job was from the beginning. I've also been stationed at Fort Stewart, Georgia. I spent 3 years there. While I was stationed there, I deployed to Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm. I was a platoon leader of a 65-man field artillery platoon, and I spent 7 months over there. I was one of the first mechanized forces on the ground. I've also been stationed in Hawaii, spent 2.5 years there, and I was a company commander there for 14 months of a field artillery battery, which is composed of just over 100 soldiers. From there, I was selected to go to graduate school. The Army paid for me to go to graduate school. I got my master's in business administration from the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University. And that was a tremendous experience for me because it really opened my eyes to the world outside the Army. Because up to that point, I came into West Point when I was 17. And so that was my first experience in the civilian world, frankly. And I loved it. And it really broadened my horizons. And I really felt like I brought something to the table also at the school. Like I could offer a unique perspective that many of them could appreciate. From there, I went to West Point, and I taught for 3 years at West Point. I taught economics, public finance, and international economics. I then moved to Fort Knox, Kentucky, where I worked in marketing for Recruiting Command, which is a challenging job to figure out where the best position recruiters and to market the Army to the civilian. And then I was selected to become the professor of military science here at UCLA. So that's my 18-year career in a nutshell.
It's wonderful. What was it like to be stationed in a foreign country, and how did your perspective change from this experience?
When I went to West Point, I had never traveled out far. I grew up in Chicago. The farthest I'd been from Chicago was Iowa and Wisconsin, which are the two adjacent states. And so going to Korea was a life-altering experience for me because you saw a whole different culture and you learned to appreciate a whole different culture. And I took advantage of that. I made friends with several Korean nationals who spoke very little English, but we learned. And I took the time to try to learn the language a little bit so at least I could say hello and thank you and the basics as opposed to making them try to understand me. And it's just such a realistic mission when you're over there looking across the demilitarized zone into North Korea, and you realize that the incredible poverty in that country, and you realize the importance of your mission in protecting the freedom that they have in South Korea. And then my second overseas tour, obviously I spent quite a bit of time in Saudi Arabia, but there I didn't have as much interaction with the population. It was more I was out in the desert preparing for the possible war with Iraq. But even then you gain an appreciation for the incredible cultural difference. And so we went through a lot of training that taught us appropriate ways to behave and the ways that the Saudi Arabians would perceive things that we did. And I just found the importance of being very respectful. And I think that that's one of the great benefits of serving, actually, is you get a chance to see the world while you're doing your job. And your job's important. And as an American soldier, I mean, I'll never forget, as a second lieutenant driving through Korea, and the kids wave to you. They're on the side of the street, and they're waving, and they respect you and admire you. And that's a powerful feeling, to be in another country and have people respect you and for who you are. And so that's why I think it's important that you gain that appreciation, and particularly now with the global war on this ideology, this outrageous fundamentalism that America's fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq and throughout the world. I think it's important that the whole time that we're doing that, we're still very respectful of the culture. Because what I'll tell my cadets all the time in class is the average Iraqi gets up in the morning and wants to go to work and have a good day for his or her family. And they're not insurgents and they're not the enemy, they're our friends. And you have to keep that in mind during any operation. And while there are folks out there that don't want us to succeed, I think it's important that we keep our mind on the importance of the good people in Iraq and Afghanistan. The vast majority of Iraqis don't want to hurt anybody. They just want to live their life, practice their religion, raise their children, and have a happy life. No different than any American. And so it's incredible to serve overseas, to be perfectly honest with you.